Hello, a very good morning. Welcome along to Ireland AM, Virgin Media 1, Virgin Media Play.
It is Wednesday, the 13th of November. We hope you've woken up warm this morning because it is freezing
Foggy
outside.
out there,
Absolutely,
yes.
yeah.
Take care out on the roads. Now, with just over 2 weeks to go, we get the latest on the upcoming general election. We're going to be discussing that at 7:15.
Now, yesterday, you might have seen this, the first breakthrough of COP29. It was announced. We're going to take a look at carbon markets, what exactly they are. We'll also have the rest of the news at 7:35 this morning.
And at 7:45.
That's her telling us what carbon markets are.
Karen will come to you in a second.
Calm down, we're getting there. We're getting there, Karen.
At 7:45, we're going to be finding out this. We're going to be chatting to life coach Mark Fennell about what colour your personality is. So you've got your reds, your blues, your greens, yellows. Yellow is energised, red is natural leader.
I'm pink.
Blue, you're pink
I'm
today.
Elwood. I'm Elwood. Is that what you call me?
Yeah, the mixture. Very good.
That's
Okay,
what we
pink
can
it
be.
is. So we're going to be discussing that at 7:45. It's going to be a bit of fun, and we maybe have a quiz that you can try at home as well.
There you go. Sure, why not have a colour personality? Karen, it's time for you. Do you want to cough and take it away again?
I came in a bit early this morning. We have a jam-packed show for you today. Bad dad David Walliams tells us about meeting Cher. Bad sisters actor Conor O'Donnell talks about how important it is for the TV and film industry to be inclusive. And we've got a festive but lighter alternative to the traditional roast in the kitchen.
Now, with only 16 days to go, political parties are still launching their party policies and manifestos for the general election.
So after the break, we're going to be taking a look at what some of their key election promises are going to be. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now, with the general election less than 3 weeks away, parties have started releasing their election manifestos.
Yes, so here to discuss each party's policies today, it is political correspondent with the Irish Times, Jack Horgan-Jones, and journalist with briefing.ie, Liz Carlin. Good morning to you both.
Guys.
Great to have you both with us. We're going to crack into it because we're trying to give each party the same amount of time. So let's...
Broadcasting rules, we have to do this.
There you have it. Fine Gael, Jack,
Start the
tell
clock.
us. Start the
So
clock.
Fine Gael is we only have two party manifestos in full so far, Fianna Fáil and the Green Party. So we don't know the entirety of Fine Gael. We just have the little bits and pieces that they've put out so far. Okay. So a couple of things to flag there. Today they're launching their childcare policy. So this is the subset of the manifesto that looks at childcare and child welfare and things like that. And there's a couple of things to keep an eye out for there. They're talking about making the back to school bonus basically universal by doing a double child benefit payment every August. So this is a bit like what we saw in the budget in October. Yeah. But it will be done every single year. Every household would get a double payment in August, which would effectively act as a universal back-to-school bonus, which is now done on a means-test basis. They're also talking about extending something that they did for unemployment benefit, whereby if you've paid PRSI for more years, then you get a higher rate of job seekers. They're talking about extending that to parents' benefit. So parents' benefit is something that you get for 9 weeks in the first 2 years of the child's life. You can take up to that, and it's paid at €274. But they're talking about bringing that up to potentially as much as €450, so people can be encouraged to take it. They're also they had a housing policy launch on Monday where they talked about putting 10 billion into housing and also extending the Help to Buy scheme, which is something that has been quite controversial.
Okay, so we're waiting to hear more when they launch their full manifesto a little bit later on. Liz, Fianna Fáil have launched their full manifesto, so what are the main talking points from that?
They have, and it's quite a tome. It's really quite comprehensive, and they seem to be kind of trying to make a play, especially for the farmer vote. So I think there's 280 million in there for various kind of farmer supports. Okay. They're talking about having, again, the red line we're going to be hearing a lot about in the next few weeks is around a kind of European derogation.
This on nitrates.
On nitrates, exactly. And so they were in with the Farmers Association yesterday. There's also quite a bit on economic support to families. So they're looking at raising the income tax threshold. So you wouldn't be paying that kind of higher rate of tax until about €50,000, reducing taxes. One of their big, I guess, machinery of government changes, the big kind of infrastructure things they're looking at is having a new government department. It would be the Department of Domestic Affairs. And so that would be having a place in government that's responsible for things like national security, cyber security as well, which I know is something that's quite overlooked normally, and that would also then be looking at migration. So it'll be interesting to see where the debates go around that. Then your classic lower class sizes. They're looking at keeping the energy VAT rate. Lots
Lower
of
class
other,
size, they've got the education portfolio at the moment, yeah.
They do have
Yeah.
that, yeah, and they have had that for a while, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then with the VAT rate as well, they're trying to keep the 9% at energy bills is one thing that a lot of people are talking about, that VAT rate.
Exactly, and then looking at the Apple tax, which again is another thing. There's the big debate over how can we use that to increase public transport and infrastructure.
Very
Great.
good.
Thanks so much,
Okay,
Liz.
let's move on to the Green Party.
Yes, so the Greens launched the entirety of their manifesto yesterday, and if you were to distill it down, their basic argument is that only the Greens can deliver on climate and basically keep manners on the big boys in government, so they need to be re-elected. So there's a lot of more of the same in the Green Party manifesto, and it's built around this central commitment to spend 10 billion more on public transport in the lifetime of the next government. There are
supercharged transport. Is the
yeah, exactly,
thing
and they
thing,
pick
yeah.
out various projects up and down the country. So you won't be surprised to see the likes of Dublin Metro in there, but also the Gluas and the Cork Lewis
So
as
that's
well.
Galway, Cork, Limerick, yeah,
yeah,
the
exactly. So
metropolitan
those
areas.
kind of things that people would associate very much, and keeping public transport fares low and stuff like that. There's some other quite eye-catching things in there. They're talking about a tax on business class flights. They reckon they could raise up around 105 million, which would go towards some of the cost of offsetting climate.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
exactly. So and that would only be on business class flights as well. They're also talking about things like graded speeding fines, which are allocated based on a percentage of your disposable income as opposed to a flat rate. The idea being that if you're wealthier and you're caught speeding, you pay more. I'm not sure exactly how they'd figure out someone's disposable income, but it's a popular kind of grabby thing.
Right.
And they're also talking about doing things like encouraging measures to encourage the weight of cars to come down, which obviously is a move against SUVs.
Retrofitting
How
as
they
well.
balance that against EVs. Retrofitting is a huge part. So this falls into the more of the same category. Also, gender balance at cabinet, which would be interesting.
Okay, very interesting.
Very good. Okay, let's move on to the next one then. Sinn Féin, Liz.
So we don't have a full Sinn Féin manifesto, but over the last couple of months, they have been doing a bit of a kind of strategic realignment, like a series of policy documents laying out what they would do. One of the more eye-grabby ones of these is the €10 a day childcare, which they came out early on, and it looks like a lot of the other parties are kind of starting to come up with similar figures.
They followed, yeah, they have.
And so they're talking about having in the first 100 days a mini budget, they're calling it, when they would sort of nearly throw out the budget that we just have and introduce some new policies that they're quite focused on. One of them would be the USC, looking at kind of scrapping that. Some big state investments in the health system and in housing, and they're setting themselves a target of 370,000 new homes in the next 6 years, so before 2030.
It's huge in 6 years.
In 6 years,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And they're also they're looking at renters as well. They are
That's
looking
right.
at the situation
Big
of rent.
focus on supporting renters. And yesterday, Mary Lou McDonald again, she was in that same meeting with kind of farmers groups and was making a bit of a play there. Was kind of talking down the carbon credits, that sort of policy approach to climate sort of mitigation, adaptation.
That they all did, and all three of them met the farmers groups. Yeah, Micheál Martin, we had Fine Gael, and we also had Sinn Féin, who did all those three in the same day. Now we're going to move on to a party that has really diminished over time, Jack, it's Labour.
Diminished over time, but they feel they have the wind in their sails to an extent after the European elections when they had Éanna Riordan elected for Dublin.
Yeah.
Again, this is another one where we don't know the full detail of the manifesto. It'll be out on Sunday, I believe. But a couple of things that we do know are the housing parts of the manifesto and the tax and finance parts. So just to briefly drill into each of those, they're talking about setting up a state construction company, turning the Land Development Agency into a state construction company and trying to make the state itself a big player when it comes to directly putting bricks on top of bricks. So that's an interesting one to see how that develops. They're also talking about phasing out the Help to Buy, which is something that the government, as you said, has made a red line issue about. They say retaining this is going to be key to any government formation talks. Labour, in common, in fairness, with Sinn Féin and the Social Democrats, saying no, they want to get rid of it over time. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out as they all sit down to try and form a government after the general election.
As
in
they
terms
argue
of,
it raises prices for all houses.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a weight of criticism saying that it's inflationary. Against that, from the government's point of view, it turns renters, a small number of renters, into home buyers, and that makes them more likely to vote for mainstream political parties. On the tax side, they're looking at ring fencing the USC. So a lot of parties are talking about cutting the USC. Labour is saying instead of cutting it, we're going to ring fence. We're going to make it a dedicated health budget to kind of fund Sláintecare and things like that going forward, and also talking about index linking tax bans so you don't get an effective pay cut due to inflation.
Okay.
And tax relief on sports clubs and gym membership as well, I see there as well. Let's move on to the last party then, Social Democrats.
Yeah, so the Social Democrats launched their campaign yesterday, and as you might expect, they have a big kind of public sector focus. That's kind of their unique selling point.
Yeah.
So along with other parties, they're talking about having a cap on childcare fees, but they're also talking about starting to make significant investments in building a public provision of childcare, which is something that I think differentiates them a little bit from some of the other parties. Again, there's sort of affordable home targets. There's quite a bit of kind of climate action measures in there, talking about 100,000 solar panels annually for homes. And they have a big, I think it's 1.5 billion euro, they're calling it Fair Fund. So this is for farmers, rural communities, to support them in that transition to the green economy. Another big, government change would be talking about having a dedicated minister for disabilities, which I think is an issue that a lot of the parties are starting to focus on in the run-up to this election. And then an anti-corruption agency, so having a dedicated body within government. It's crazy we don't have one, actually, that is focused on dealing with corruption.
Corruption, money being spent. It is very interesting. They're trying to put that's come up an awful lot, and people are kind of going, oh, that is a very interesting thing that we should really look at.
Yeah, and looking at kind of like what's an institutional response to that rather than saying, I wouldn't do it. You know?
Yes,
yeah.
Really interesting. So these are the main policies from the 6 parties within Ireland. Of course, we realise that there are independents and other parties as well. We're just trying to give you the manifestos that we have there at the time. We will be going into more of this as we go along throughout the campaign as well. Minute and a half each. Well done, lads.
Perfect. Yeah.
Fair play to you for breaking all of that
Jack Corgan
down.
Jones from the Irish Times and Liz Carlin from Briefing. I really appreciate that. Thanks
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. If you want to get in contact on any of that, 0896 111 111. I swear to God, we broke that down.
Go get yourselves a cup of coffee. Right, tonight...
I feel like you just said leaving.
Yeah, I didn't do very well in it. Virgin Media Television is hosting the first of 3 big interviews with the party leaders, hoping to be the next Taoiseach. First up, it's Fine Gael Simon Harris for an hour-long live interview with Colette Fitzpatrick. That is tonight at 10 p.m. on Virgin Media Play and Virgin Media 1.
Yes, they will be jiving at the end, we hear. Yes, that is a big part, jiving at the end. That'll be followed next week by Sinn Féin's Mary Lee MacDonald and Micheál Martin of Fianna Fáil on Wednesday, November the 27th.
And hopefully we look forward to them coming in and talk to us at some time.
Tommy's like, why aren't they coming in? They better be coming in
have
to
a
us.
chat with us, guys.
Coming up, we've got all the latest news and we'll find out what colour personality best suits politicians. Keeping it political, we'll talk to you shortly on Ireland Day. Now it's time to take a look at this morning's papers. We're starting with the Examiner, the headline there. Martin says house prices to keep rising. It continues to say that prospective homeowners face another 3 to 4 years of spiralling house prices, just as the cost of renting a home in cities is soaring to record levels. McDonald's dig at civil service. Sinn Féin has ignited a fresh row with civil servants by saying the bureaucracy of the state needs to be streamlined, as work is often more than duplicated. That's the top story on the Daily Mail. Suspect in Jojo murder had scratch mark on face. The chief suspect in the murder of Jojo Dullard had a scratch mark on his face and gave contradictory statements to Gardaí in the weeks after she went missing 29 years ago. That's the front page of today's Irish Independent. The Sun also leads with that story saying violent past of Jojo murder suspect. It states that the man arrested over Jojo Dullard's murder was previously dubbed extremely dangerous. The Star and the Mirror go with the same story this morning. The Star's headline says, I felt like a lump of meat. A paramedic tells the court of marks on a woman's body in regard to the ongoing civil action against Conor McGregor and another man. All allegations in the action are fully denied.
The Herald goes with detective gives brutal account of gunman's killing. It continues saying that a Garda has given a brutal account of how a gunman, Tristan Sherry, was stamped, kicked and beaten with chairs and a bar after he shot and killed a man at a busy Dublin restaurant last Christmas Eve.
The Irish Times leads with emissions set to reach record high this year. It goes on to say that carbon emissions from fossil fuels, the single biggest contributor to global warming, they're set to reach a record high in 2024 with no peak or downward trajectory currently in sight. That's according to the latest assessment presented at the COP29 climate talks.
There you have it, and we will be talking about COP very shortly, Muireann, as well. We just want to mention this sad story at the front of the Irish Independent.
Just right there, Johnny Doohan, many people will know him. He's written songs for people all over the place. The Voyage, probably by Christy Moore, being one
Beautiful
of
song.
the most successful, the one that we all know. He drowned yesterday when he was swimming, doing a swim he does all the time in Galway, and a woman in her 30s. Her body hasn't been found, and she drowned on the same beach at the same time. So our thoughts are just with their families at the minute. It's absolutely tragic.
Now, joining us with the other stories making the news this morning's News Talk's Andrea Gilligan. Good morning to you, Andrea.
Hi, Andrea.
Great to have you with us. We're going to get to COP as well, but we do want to give another shout out as well to an Irish inventor, University of Limerick graduate Olivia Humphreys. She was on with us only a few weeks ago, and she was one of the global winners at the James Dyson Awards.
There
the first time an Irish inventor has won this award, and it was a mobile
cooling cap, isn't it? Yeah, and anyone watching that's gone through cancer treatment will be well aware of this, but she's managed to invent a cooling cap that will work outside the hospitals and in a more cost-effective manner. So it's an incredible achievement for her, and really positive news too for anybody going through chemotherapy.
And she's working in medical devices place in Galway, and she's coming up with more things for people who are going through cancer care. And it was all inspired by her mother, who is fully recovered but was going through cancer when she was in university. Huge congratulations. It's amazing, Olivia. Well, congratulations on that. Now,
bit of good news.
Yes.
And more good news.
Yes, a woman who's trying to do something better for people. And now we've got COP29 going on, which is huge and it's got far-reaching effects. And it's the time of year when we find out the planet is, we hear nothing about the planet's about to die. But there was good news yesterday from COP.
Yeah, well, this is, look, in a nutshell, this is to do with the carbon markets, right? And what they do is they allow countries and companies that exceed their carbon emission reductions, those carbon emission reduction targets, to effectively buy credits, right, off countries that are overperforming in terms of carbon reduction.
Yes. Okay,
so effectively there's very polarising views about this, and even though we're saying it's positive to many respects yesterday, there's a lot of critics out there who actually think while the aim of this is to help poorer countries, more marginalised countries that haven't the funds or the money to implement, climate action targets.
To be polluters.
Yeah, so the idea being, the aim of this from a UN COP29 perspective is to allow those countries that haven't been in a position to implement climate action plans, it should help them in a sense that they'll be effectively able to, sell off targets or
they'll be
given
money pretty much for not hitting the emission targets.
But you've got other academics at the moment, and this is, I suppose, where there's been split views on this in Baku, even though it's going on for the next 2 weeks. The other point about this is that there's people who feel, you might have more marginalised regional governments in some parts of the world that could be open to allegation of it not being used properly. If we don't have
corruption.
If we don't have the right the I's dotted and the T's crossed and all of the finer details ironed out about this, they haven't been announced yet. I suppose even though we're talking about it, as a headline being a positive story today, the nuts and bolts of this for people watching is that they haven't actually worked out how this is going to work. It's funny, it's a Galway guy, Martin Hessian, is one of the UN officials who's part of the supervisory body on this. He's quoted in the Irish Independent today. But effectively, they still need to iron out the details. They've about 10 days to do so. We'll find more about that in about 2 weeks.
I think one says it doesn't. A lot of people, especially people from the Indigenous Environmental Network, who are very big voices at it, they say under carbon trading, all of nature becomes commodified and financialised. It's not about protecting it. It's just about swapping, going, well, I can pollute here because you're not polluting there. Anyway, we'll hear more from COP. That is exactly what it is. It's not doing anything.
Well, listen, obviously Donald Trump is a big talking point over in COP as well. He has now started making a few of his appointments to his Non-governmental agencies?
It's called Dodge.
Dodge?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Department of Government Efficiency, not an acronym for anything else beyond Elon Musk's favourite cryptocurrency, Dogecoin. Donald Trump has appointed Elon Musk, his pal, who seems to have spent the last week in the surrounds of Mar-a-Lago in Florida since Donald Trump won the presidency. But he's appointed Elon Musk and the former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to a non-governmental agency, which is called the Department of Government Efficiency, Dodge. Effectively, they're going to work in an advisory and guidance perspective. Again, on that front, they need to work out whether or not they're going to fall under, I suppose, federal employees. Like, they're not going to be civil servants. They're not going to be
He doesn't really need
staff.
the money, to be fair.
No, absolutely not. And that's one of the elements mentioned in the paper about this today from Donald Trump, is that Elon Musk obviously has his own private enterprise and prior engagements. So how much time he's going to be able to commit to advising Donald Trump?
Is he going to try and bring in private efficiency into public works? Like, can you do that?
Elon Musk suggested at one point that he would be able to find about $2 trillion in saving from the public purse, but effectively looking at the civil service and taking a hammer to it. Now,
when you shut down schools, you'll save a lot of money, to be fair, when you want to shut them down.
Mary Lou McDonald said it today about the Irish bureaucracy system as well.
So, like, it's interesting to see what exactly they're going to be doing in this environmental and advisory role, but a lot of it seems to be around environmental and efficiency savings.
Yes.
So I imagine a lot of civil servants in the US would, you know, it's probably not the news they want to hear. When
he said the merch is going to be fire, though.
Yes,
fantastic. Now we're going to move on to something better. Hangover cures.
Yeah, they've developed
Christmas time.
A pill, basically, that you take about a half an hour before you consume drink, that apparently will be game-changing in terms of the after effects of, you know, quite a few drinks or dealing with a hangover.
Do you still get drunk, though?
You'll still have the effect, I suppose, of the impact
drunk.
of, you know, what drink will do to you, but it's actually it's the after effect is where the difference is going to be. So they've tested this on mice, and what they've found is that the mice that had
the pill,
consumed the pill,
yeah.
effectively the Jill pill will they had like a completely normalised reaction having consumed the pill.
And consumed a pint of Guinness.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, however
They gave them alcohol. So they gave a bunch of mice alcohol,
drink.
a bunch of other mice alcohol. 6 hours later, they put
Some
these
got
mice
the pill,
into a maze.
some didn't.
These other mice into a maze, and the ones that had taken the pill
pill.
were able to
They
get through the
way
maze.
out.
Were they able to get through the maze when they took the alcohol?
No, it was after.
No, it was
it's
after.
the after effect.
Yes, but I know, but how did it affect the actual taking? Like,
They got better. They got better quicker. They got over it quicker.
There
That's
you
the
have
whole
it.
point.
I know it is like you would, you know, with the level of research and science that we have at the moment. Yeah.
Well, what's the hangover? What's the hangover cure?
do we?
What is it?
What do you do? Greasy fry.
No, God, no.
What?
I'm a sort of a Lucozade person, and I'm much more savoury than sweet.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm
That's
down
nice.
a pint of water when I get in, like with
That night.
Diorolite. Yeah, but
Diorolite.
generally when I need the hangover, I forget about it.
Hydration tablets, lads. I don't know what I'd do without them.
Sleep is
Yeah.
my main-
Hydration
Sleep is the key.
tablets. Do it.
Doesn't always work. Let us know what worked for you. Any concoctions coming to Christmas that we need to know it.
We're going out tonight, lads. We need all the information we can get.
0896 111 111. Now, do we have time? No, I think not. Okay, Andrea Gilligan
Andrea.
from News Talk. Thank you so much. We won't get into the
Your
story
favourite toys.
Christmas toys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Karen, what's coming up next?
Well, coming up, life coach Mark Fennell tells us if your personality colour affects the type of career you've chosen. Very interesting. See you after the break. Now, have you ever wondered what colour your personality is? Then you are in luck.
All the time keeps me up at night. Don't know what to do. Mark Fennell is going to give us the lowdown. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh my God, how can we put colour into a social construct? I swear to God. So where does this idea of colours and personalities come from?
So it's around a long time. It actually goes back as far as the Greeks. They wanted to understand social dynamics and leadership and so forth. And so they came up with kind of colours back then. They were quite different. But we've adapted over time, and a lot of the time it comes up. So what we've gone now to is a point of different colours. So red, green, blue, yellow. Now, there's more colours beyond that, and sometimes people are a mixture. But generally speaking, people will be predominant in a colour. So it's a good foundation to know. The advantage of knowing it then is obviously relationally, socially, but professionally as well. So it's really handy information.
Can you go into the boardroom and go, I'm a blue, what are you? Are we going to get along? Like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Does it influence the job? Does it influence the partner you end up gravitating towards? How much of an effect does it have on us?
It does. And what happens is, like when I work with a company or a team, or I'm in many a boardroom, you'll realise that certain colours are more, should we say, prevalent in certain roles. So leadership, CEO would be a red, but a good chief financial officer would be a good blue. So you'll find different colours are best suited to different roles.
Okay, so take us through the different colour personalities, right?
Yeah, so red would be very much dominant, and not dominant in a bad way, but dominant leadership, assertive, very get the job done, very task-focused, very speedy, let's get it done, let's go, let's move, very proactive, very competitive as well. So that's a red. A blue is quite analytical. They're kind of, let's take it a step at a time, systematic workflow. You know, they might even have a little bit of OCD when it comes to detail, but they're very like that. You'll see that accountants sometimes can be that. I'm not saying all are, but you'll see it kind of prevalent.
Careful now, people are getting... O'Leary getting into trouble about the accountants.
They're all a good colour.
Everyone at home is going, oh yeah, tick, tick, tick. I know one of them.
But they're all a good colour. There's no, like, we all have to be one, you know. The best is obviously, the more blended you are, the better, but nobody really is. You've got yellow then, is very social, very should we say, outspoken in a nice way, very much, how's everyone doing? Very much the temperament of a group. Very... You're looking at each other.
So lovely. She's so lovely.
So,
well, we'll get to us in a while.
It's very, should we say, good listener, very intuitive, very enthusiastic, quite social. A green is more of a calm, kind of steady Eddie, you know, good tenacity. They'll get a job done, they'll stick with a job. They prefer one-to-ones, hate confrontation. And so that would be kind of a green, more calm, cool, calm and collect. So yeah, so interesting colours. But the interesting part is that you'll see different ones work better together and some don't always work better together. Like the biggest clash, they kind of say, is a red and a green. Because the red wants to get
red
things
and green
done.
should never be seen. I mean, we know this.
So in clothing, it's true.
Well, let's get back to fashion. It starts there, okay?
They always knew.
It was coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Why do they clash?
But psychologically, it's interesting. Some people do gravitate to certain colours. You know, like strong leaders sometimes will they ideally want to wear red, but people don't always like wearing red and stuff. So you'll see some people wear specific colours too. But going back to that, I digress. So what you'll find is like red and green can be the biggest clash, because red is like, let's go, let's get it done, you know, up and at 'em, you know, suck it up, let's rock on. But the green is like calm, you kind of, well, it's okay, how's everyone doing? Is everyone all right? Like, we need to check on the people first before we jump into something. So they frustrate each other.
Does it align with star signs and astrology, the way so many people are invested in that? And they'll be like, going on a date, and what star sign are you? Is it... No, it's not similar to that in any way, is it?
No, I would probably say it's... I'm sure there's maybe elements of it.
Yeah.
We've talked about birth order here before. Like, as in, if you're first in the family, the eldest or the youngest.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with that?
It can happen. Like a red independent would be sometimes an eldest. Some of the time. Green is sometimes the middle child, and the younger child can sometimes be a yellow.
Right.
But that's really... can be flipped as well. You can have, well, more often than not, a red will be the eldest, but it's not always the case. Like, so don't put yourself kind of saying it has to be that way. It's not.
Would your colour ever change over a lifetime?
It can adapt.
Okay.
So, like, what happens is, and this is what you want when your people are working with me with a coaching capacity, it's to build emotional intelligence, self-awareness. And that's when you can start to be a better listener, a better understanding of other people. So the idea is, know what you are naturally, but try and work on being some of the other elements as well.
But is this the sort of thing, like, you know, like when you're going in to coach people, is it just a handy tool?
Yeah.
To be like, well, you're a red.
100%.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. So rather than people being at home trying to analyse colours right now, it's like, okay, so, you know,
it's you're kind of
overbearing. You go over there and you'll get along with this person over here who's mellow.
Yeah, it's one of the first things I've done when I go with a company. I'll try and figure out what kind of personality types people are, because you'll see that some mightn't be working well together because you have a red manager and you've a green assistant manager, and they can clash. If you can get a red and a green working together, not just to pick those colours, but if they can work together, they can be a very powerful dynamic.
Okay.
You'll see it in couples.
How do you figure out what colour you are?
So there's a questionnaire you can do, and there's some of them are very laborious, like as in there's 150 questions, so there's different ones. I know I have a short one on that you guys did, a very short one on the kind of some of the most popular questions to ask.
So one of them would be, how would you tackle a new task? A, get organised first. B, dive right in and get it started. C, take it step by step steadily. And D, make it fun with others. Where's E, not do it at all? Where's my one?
E, watch Below Deck and procrastinate. That's not there, you see.
Okay. But there's a personality quiz that people can take, and they're big.
So it's a trick one. If you didn't, or you got frustrated with that question, you're a blue. So there's always.
I did respond to him going, none of these, they're rubbish.
Because you can't see a systematic. Should we say you can't see an answer, you can't see a solution. And you're very solution kind of driven when it comes to order. So
okay, should we break it down? So Muireann answered your questionnaire that
you
people
did.
can find on your Instagram.
Here.
So what is, well, hang on, what do you think you were first?
I have no idea. I didn't think I was any of them.
Okay.
I thought
what
I was black. I was a black hole.
Well, interesting enough, you're a yellow with some red.
Oh, lovely.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So what does that mean? Yellow seemed good.
Enthusiastic, empathetic, focuses on people, would be very similar to Jennifer Aniston and Ed Sheeran.
I'd take that. That's great.
The girl next door.
You better give me some Jennifer Aniston over here. What did I get?
Karen, you got green. And some yellow. Yeah, you're green. Very good.
Jeez, I thought I was yellow.
So there you go.
What does green mean?
You'd be a very loyal person. So there you go.
Good.
A good listener, very empathetic. Not a fan of confrontation.
No.
You'd be very likened to Adele or Tom Hanks.
Oh, I take those two.
Oh, that's
Love
very
that.
nice.
What about Tommy over there?
The money.
He wants to know.
So
green is very boring, isn't it?
Well, Tommy
You're
actually
wearing
scored.
green, Tommy.
Tommy did very well, I'll be honest with you.
Red. Here we go.
In the world of in TV and radio presenting, this is kind of the colour you want to be, right?
Sorry, what colour again?
So it's yellow with red, right? Do you know who it's the same as? The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And Oprah Winfrey. So there you go.
Oh, my
God. There you go. Red and yellow, am I?
A natural leader, likes to get the job done and doesn't like to mess around.
Oprah Winfrey. Tommy, can you buy me a car?
So
is that okay?
I sure can.
Okay.
But I'll give you some others, right?
Will you
Graham
smell
Norton.
what The Rock is cooking?
Sorry. Graham Norton.
What The Rock is cooking. It would be a yellow. David Beckham would be a red, green. Victoria Beckham would be a red, blue. Very good combination. Micheál Martin, green.
Yes, politicians.
Green, blue. Simon Harris, green, yellow. Which
green, yellow, calm, loyal, dependable, enthusiastic, optimistic. What did you say, Micheál Martin?
Simon Harris would be green, yellow. Micheál Martin would be green, blue.
Green, blue, so calm, loyal and detailed and cautious.
Yeah, Mary Lou McDonald would be red, green and...
assertive, a natural leader and calm and loyal, right?
Yeah, so out of personality types, Simon Harris, green, yellow would be the ideal.
Oh, well, we're not saying anything about that. We don't know anything about that.
We don't know about that.
You have
We
an
don't know
event,
about that.
Mark, you have an event, do you?
I do this Sunday, SOAR, November 17th in the Royal Marine, and it's all about a day to level up life.
Yes, and you
It's
can
gonna be
do
inspirational.
You can do this quiz at home, and you can find out about SOAR on Mark's Instagram. It's markfennell.ie. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you so much.
Still to come this morning, the boy in the dress. David Walliams joins us to chat about his latest kids' book.
Plus, climate activist and wildlife expert Éanna Launa tells us how there is still plenty of wildlife to explore, even at this time of year. Talk to you shortly on Ireland AM. Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM.
Coming up very shortly, it's his first foray into murder mysteries. Super sleuth David Walliams is going to join us at 8:15.
Wildlife expert Éanna Launa. She's going to be encouraging people to take on the Great Irish Nature Challenge, biodiversity challenge, I think she's doing today. That's at 8:45.
And at 9:20, investigative journalist Paul Williams is going to chart an incredible 40 years in journalism. He's got a new book. Fascinating how he kept doing it for over 40 years.
And the stuff that he's seen as well. We'll be chatting in just a little while. Karen is in the kitchen. What's coming up, Karen?
I have a treat for you. Trisha Lewis is with us this morning, and you've got something really sumptuous actually today, don't you?
I'm going to be making a gorgeous, delicious lobster and prawn cocktail using lobster from Aldi.
Lovely. So
gorgeous.
I mean, the prawn cocktail's not going away. We loved it in the 80s and we're still loving it.
And I'm making it a little bit fancier, but it's just something coming into this kind of season if you want an easy dish to make for
Whip
Christmas
up.
and
Great.
whatnot.
Low maintenance. That's what we like. Super stuff. We'll be chatting to you a little bit later on. Thanks very much, Trisha.
Now it's time to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Examiner. The headline there, Martin says house prices to keep rising. This is from Micheál Martin. It continues to say that prospective homeowners face another 3 to 4 years of spiralling house prices, just as the cost of renting a home in cities is soaring to record levels.
McDonald's dig at civil service. Sinn Féin has ignited a fresh row with civil servants by saying the bureaucracy of the state needs to be streamlined, as work is often more than duplicated. That's the top story on the Daily Mail.
Suspect in Jojo murder had scratch mark on face. The chief suspect in the murder of Jojo Dullard had a scratch mark on his face and gave contradictory statements to Gardaí in the weeks after she went missing 29 years ago. That's the front page of today's Irish Independent.
The Sun also leads with that story saying violent past of Jojo murder suspect. It states that the man arrested over Jojo Dullard's murder was previously dubbed extremely dangerous.
The Mirror and The Star go with the same story this morning. The Star's headline is, "I felt like a lump of meat." That was according to the victim, and a paramedic told yesterday in court of marks on a woman's body in regard to the ongoing civil action against Conor McGregor and another man. All allegations in the action are fully denied.
The Herald goes with detective gives brutal account of gunman's killing. It continues saying that a Garda has given a brutal account of how gunman Tristan Sherry was stamped, kicked and beaten with chairs and a bar after he had shot and killed a man at a busy Dublin restaurant last Christmas Eve.
On the Irish Times front page, emissions set to reach record high this year. It goes on to say that carbon emissions from fossil fuels, the single biggest contributor to global warming, are set to reach a record high in 2024, with no peak or downward trajectory currently in sight. That's according to the latest assessment presented at the COP29 climate talks in Baku, Azerbaijan.
There you have it. Now, we're discussing a number of different things this morning. One of them, though, that's caught a lot of people's attention, though, Karen, is cures to a hangover. So scientists have apparently found the cure. You take a tablet before you're going out drinking and it shields your liver and other organs from the alcohol-induced harm.
And we were worried it doesn't give you the same
buzz.
Yes,
exactly. Now, we should be careful because alcohol is obviously extremely dangerous and has ruined so many people's lives, and we don't want to be doing something that encourages people to drink. But we're asking about hangover cures.
If you are going to have something, what might make you alleviate the
going into the festivity season? Exactly.
Yeah. I think it is about the prep that, you need to plan, I think, don't you? You need to have, I've a full stomach, I think, number one.
You need to eat.
Gotta eat. And also, I love what Laura has said to us this morning, pre-drinking vitamins to take to stop a hangover. Vitamins B complex, magnesium, 1 folic acid. Folic acid.
Right.
I don't know.
Is that the stuff you take when you're pregnant or something?
You're trying to conceive, get it into
there we go.
It works.
So vitamin B complex, magnesium and 1 folic acid. I have to give that a rattle.
There you go, yeah.
The scientists will be on to you with that one, Laura.
Yeah.
Yvette says hangover cure, Solpadeine and a Barocca in the same glass.
Sounds effective.
Now, do you take that in the following morning, obviously?
That's a cure. Yeah, she said cure, so I'm
Because
assuming it's after.
So I thought the one, so you drink, isn't it, the Diorlite, just trying to get a bit of water into you before you go to bed.
I do that before I go to bed.
But whenever you're that drunk, you never remember to do it.
But you gotta put it in the middle of your bed. You gotta lash it all over the house. Like when I get home, I'm lying on a box of Diorlite. It's like I'm sleeping with a box of Diorlite. There you are. You're ready to go. Pump. That's what you got to do.
A big full fry up as well in the morning. That's always a good one too, isn't it?
David says time is the big heater when it comes to hangovers, but I find coffee and eggs helps to settle the head and the tummy a bit. Honestly, I don't know about this tablet either. If you drink, you're going to get a hangover. There's no way to alleviate it.
It's an adult headache in our house because we can't say the word hangover because ever since watching School of Rock, there's what's your man's name? Jack Black. Says they go, he goes, okay, class, first day. Who knows what a hangover is? And the kids go, oh, it means you're drunk. He goes, no, it means I was drunk yesterday. So I'm like, we can't use that word now because it's like, we don't
so
do
no
it
hangover it is.
So it's an adult headache.
Very good. Have you got a cure? Do you have anything that you do?
I will be on the Salpadine Baraka buzz as well, and then just someone to remove my children from the house as well, because I find it very difficult.
Hair of the
mothering.
dog. What about that one?
Well, a glass of Prosecco also gets you through
The
as
next
well.
morning,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Always drinks late though.
089 111 Again, not encouraging
No,
it.
drinks
They are
late.
just a fact for people.
But if you do have something that guarantees it works, let us know. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to chat with comedian and children's author David Walliams. Don't go anywhere. You're very welcome back. Now, first, he was making adults laugh with a lot of naughty humour. Now, he is giving kids the giggles with his books.
Super Sleuth marks the release of David Walliams' 42nd book, and he joins us this morning. David Walliams, good morning.
Good morning. It's quantity over quality, but yeah. There are 42 books.
I am going through, the amount of books, short stories that you've released, and you're one of those people, like Cecilia Ahern. You do like a book a year. How are you keeping up that pace?
More than that sometimes.
More, yeah.
They're children, because I haven't been writing since I was 7. But the thing is, I love doing it. And obviously they're children's books, so they're not, I always have a novel every year, but sometimes there's something a little different, like a book of short stories or a picture book. So it sounds sort of more than it is. But Michael Morpurgo, who wrote Warhorse, has written over 200 books. He's written so many books that no one really knows how many books he's written. So I'm not there yet.
Okay, well, you're on your way, but fair play to you. They're all at a fairly impressive standard as well.
But is there a competition like that? Are you going, I want to get to 200 books. You're not going to beat me.
Again, I think it's more about book sales than it is about the amount of books. I mean, I think, J.K. Rowling didn't have to write, 1 million books to sell 1 billion copies, did she? So I think it's just, well, also you just want your books to be good and enjoyed by people. And, I've now been writing children's books for 15 years. So the test will be whether people who read them as a kid will read them to their children.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to your new book in just a second, but I want to talk about another book at the minute, which we're seeing is all over the papers at the minute. A friend of yours, because you do seem to have always a very glamorous lifestyle and nice. Bunch of friends you like to hang out with. So actor Luke Evans, his memoir, he was talking about your encounter with Cher.
Yes,
what happened?
He slightly got the story wrong. What happened is we were having dinner in Portofino in Italy with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. So these are my first name drops. Nice. And Gemma Arterton was there and Luke Evans. And then we were asked if we wanted to meet Cher, who was next table. And I was like, of course. And then I came over to the table and Cher was sat with a lady I knew who's a jewelry designer. And they said, oh, this is David. He's a friend of Elton's. And Cher just went, thank you very much. That was the end of the conversation, because I just thought, I don't know what she thinks she said. Also, I just don't know what a way to be introduced. You're a friend of somebody that she may have met. So yeah, that was it. That was my sort of 5 seconds with Cher. But it was okay. We still got to look at Cher, and I was very, very excited.
But he said that you then had to go back to the table with Jennifer and Adam and try and explain they're all in hysterics laughing at you.
Yes, I know, but that's okay, because I think actually it's a much better story than it went well. My friend, the actor Sir Tom Courtenay, has a great story that he was going around a Hollywood studio in the 60s. And Elvis Presley was making a movie there, and someone knocked on the door and said, hey, Elvis, do you want to meet this young British actor? He's a very exciting young British actor. And Elvis, he just heard Elvis said, no, sir. So he only heard Elvis's voice, which is a better story than you met Elvis for a minute.
It is such a better story when it's something like that. And does your sort of life that you lead now, this sort of very glamorous life, does it ever play? Because you write children, you know all these famous people. You were just showing us a picture with Daniel Craig. Does it make its way into any of your fiction, into any of your other work? Or is it just like, no, that's just the life I lead?
Well, we're very lucky, the success of Little Britain sort of propelled us into a certain world, and we started doing comic relief sketches with well-known people. Daniel Craig, I've actually known well, not that well. I'm sure he wouldn't go on about knowing me. But I actually first saw him at the National Youth Theatre in 1989. So sometimes it's people become successful. I became close to Elton because he was in a Little Britain comic relief sketch with us. We also met George Michael that way. It was very exciting. So yeah, over the years, and I've been lucky, for example, to play a very tiny role in that movie, Murder Mystery, with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. I die in the first 5 minutes. So I've only ever seen the first 5 minutes of that movie. I have no clue what happens after that.
And you don't care.
I turned it off when you died.
When you were gone. Who cares?
I think a lot of people did.
Of course they did. Whoever wrote that into the script really got it wrong.
Well, you are here because you do have a brand new book in time for Christmas. It's David Walliams' Super Sleuth. You've got a new character. Tell us about this, David.
Well, this is the book here. What? No, this is the book.
Fiction.
By the way, I did not.
They're both fiction.
I did not pay for that book, by the way. Yes, it's a murder mystery. It's the first time I've written a murder mystery. It's set in the 1920s on an ocean liner. And the premise of the book is that on this journey, on the first night that the ship is at sea, the world's most famous detective is murdered. So it comes to a little girl called Dilly and her dog Watson. She's a big fan of like Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie stories, and she has to solve the crime. So that's the premise of it. I had so much fun writing it. It was difficult because you need to get the plot absolutely watertight with a murder mystery, but I think I did it right. And if it's made into a movie like Murder Mystery, I will actually watch the whole thing.
Well, let's hope they won't kill you off if you're a part of that one in the first 5 minutes.
Can you make it till the end?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because with a murder mystery, as you said, it has to be watertight. It's a tricky one to go into. And you talked about the research that went into this. Did it mean you went onto a load of ships, onto a load of cruise liners? Was it a nice way of doing a bit of research?
I didn't actually go onto any cruise liners. I just sort of, you use your imagination, but also I've grown up reading and watching Sherlock Holmes stories, Agatha Christie stories. So I suppose that's why I wanted that sort of 1920s setting. I know Sherlock Holmes is earlier, but you do associate that with Agatha Christie. And I watched Titanic again, but this ship doesn't sink. But I wanted a ship that had the sort of splendor of the Titanic. So yes, I did a bit of research, but I didn't murder anyone. You mustn't do that. But it was more that I wanted to get into that Agatha Christie world.
Does your Jack and Rose, do they both fit on the door in this book?
Did my what fit on the door?
Your version of Jack and Rose from the Titanic, would they fit on the door?
Well, I love that story, and
it looks very like the Titanic. To be fair,
I found it very romantic. Yeah. So that's Super Sleuth, and I'm coming to Dublin next week, and I'm going to be at Eason's, my favourite bookstore in the world, on O'Connell Street on Tuesday, the 19th of November, just after school, and doing a signing.
Wow!
So for me, you might want to come, get your book signed.
I will be there with my daughter.
Sit on Uncle David's knee.
Yes.
And you haven't got children, you liar.
Excuse me, I'll be bringing this home to my 7-year-old. Can 7-year-olds a bit old for her yet? But
no, I think it's all right. It's sort of, they're aimed at sort of 8 to 12-year-olds, but you meet 6-year-olds who've read every Harry Potter book, and you meet 13-year-olds who've never read a book. So there's a big... There's a big spread, but I look upon my books as entertainment for kids. I want kids to read them for pleasure, and I just want them to have a kind of brilliant time reading it, and just want to kind of, and then turn kids into readers. And then, as you know, as a parent, Tommy, that, there's nothing better than seeing your child reading a book for pleasure, chuckling away, enjoying themselves, rather than watching TV, rather than playing on the PS5, rather than looking at your phone or whatever.
It's actually such a beautiful sentiment, and we all know how important it is for children to do that. So if you're going along to Easton's next week, you will see Tommy sitting on David Walliams' knee, and who doesn't want to see that either, as long as we've got cameras there to make sure that definitely happens. David, really quickly, Little Britain, what's going on? You mentioned it there at the start. You know, everyone's kind of talking about you getting back together, a stage show, a streamer show, a podcast. What's happening?
It's all happening. It's all happening. Yeah, we're planning, we're making a podcast at the moment. We're writing a TV show, which is a brand new TV show. And yeah, we are thinking about the different things we can do on stage. So there he is. The only problem is he's got really thin. And you're going to have to start wearing padding for like Daffodil, stuff like that. So yeah, he's, you know, isn't he slim?
He does. He looks brilliant.
Isn't he gorge? Eh, girls?
And he's a children's author too now. He brought out a book for Christmas.
He says he is. I mean, he's done one book.
He's coming for the crown.
I've not read it. I don't think anyone has. No, it's very good. And I'm not going to promote his book, but it's called The Boy Who Slept Through Christmas. And it's a musical book. Matt's written a whole musical to go with it. Which
and you're fine.
My books are still better. I think that's the message I want to get across this morning.
No plugging more of Matt Williams. Go away. He doesn't want it.
Lucas.
Let's talk about
plugging of this idiot.
It's like we're on Channel 4 when he wouldn't stop plugging it that night. Your 42nd book, it is called Super Sleuth, First Murder Mystery, and you are going to be on Easton's on O'Connell Street in Dublin on the 19th. David Walliams, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
David.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, coming up next, we're going to be in the kitchen. We are making lobster prawn cocktails.
Oh, yeah. Plus, Éanna Ní Lamhna talks about the weird and wonderful things you can find in bogs. Back with you shortly on Ireland AM.
Now, whether we like it or not, it is 6 weeks till Christmas and it's time to start thinking about Christmas dinner.
Yes, but what are your options if you are looking for something maybe before your turkey, before the roast? Well, you know what? We've got you sorted. Tricia Lewis is here this morning to dish up a tasty lobster prawn cocktail. How posh.
Very fancy, Tricia.
Listen, I only bring the best.
Yeah.
When I come up to the big smoke.
Good morning. Great to have you with us.
So I'm going to do kind of like, we all love prawn cocktail, but it's just to kind of fancy it up and jazz it up this Christmas.
I know lobster.
So we're going to start off. This is in Aldi stores now. So it's these garlic and herb lobster tails. So what you'll do is you'll blanch them, so you'll boil them for about 20 minutes. And if you can see, they're kind of like a brown, orangey colour. And when they're cooked, you want this bright fluorescent, kind of like Nemo colour. That's what you're looking for.
Now, do you start off, do you put that in boiling hot water or do you put it in kind of...
Boiling hot water.
Okay.
Because if you bring it's just to make sure that it's cooking straight away.
So boiling hot water and put the lid on?
Yeah. And then I'm going to use these kind of specially selected raw king prawns. And we're going to cook them. And so it's a little bit fancier. They're not the small prawns, but then you can chop them up, and it's kind of an alternative starter if you're kind of bored of the vol au vent and stuff like that.
This is very fancy.
Now, I'm not cramping your style. I'm just going to move so we can see all the hard work that you were doing here, my love.
Yes,
There we go. Now.
Right, so would this be a starter that you could kind of... Like, you couldn't make this before. You'd kind of need to be...
You do it in the morning if
you could do it the day before, and that's the beauty of it. And you can have them ready in the glasses. So if you're under pressure making the Christmas dinner, you can be like, there's your starter. I'm going to go and have my meltdown in the back and jump.
Yes, exactly.
And are you going to do Christmas dinner in your house?
Yeah, I always do. It's just easier.
Everyone goes to you. Great.
Yeah, and it's
There's a
less
right bit
questions.
of pressure on you, though, isn't there? People probably expect it to be perfect.
I think that's why I became a chef, because I don't have to do the clean-up then. So from a young child, I was like, I see. So if I cook for two, like I have 8 sisters, so there's a lot of clean-up and a lot of cooking. So I choose the lesser even.
Yeah, okay.
So we're just going to dice up some red onion and go with kind of red onion or shallot because it's a little bit sweeter and it's not as harsh. And use a little bit of cucumber. And if you don't like cucumber, you can obviously leave it out. You can replace it with some peppers and bits like that. And the good news with this, they are frozen. So if you're stocking up for Christmas and kind of getting the best value, you can buy them now and have them ready.
Good idea.
What's frozen now?
The lobster tails are frozen.
Right, okay.
So you can have them in the freezer. And just before you cook them, you need to make sure that they're frosted.
Okay.
So very easy. So here
Perfect.
Here is the onions and cucumber. So that's going to go into the bowl that is obviously too big that I brought up from home.
That's all right.
But it's very nice, lovely
It
brown
does
bowl.
look like a lovely bowl,
It's
yeah.
very fancy. But I kind of have no use for it ever. So I was like, "Do you know what, I'll bring this up, it'll be lovely.
We always know about your fancy knives and everything,
I
your
know.
fancy bowls as
I know.
well.
I love them. So with the prawns, when they're cooked, they'll turn a beautiful kind of bright pink colour.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you can leave them in whole if you want. You can kind of arrange them around the outside of the glass. But personally, I don't like that because I always think that the food is kind of touch thin and stuff. So it's just, you know, when you go to a restaurant, you see them perfectly placed. I'm like, no, let's just put them in.
Oh, really?
You're going to
Chopping them up.
Yeah, roughly chop them. So they're kind of meaty, bite-sized pieces.
Did you season them or anything? Or did you cook them in garlic butter? Did I miss that bit?
These prawns have a little bit of butter in the packet. There's lovely garlic and herb butter.
Okay.
So you're going to chop that up. And they go.
And those prawns that you're cooking at the minute, they look like you're cooking it at quite a low heat.
Yes.
Is that right?
You're kind of just bringing them back up because prawns don't need a lot of cooking. So once you just kind of cook them away gently. Now, if I was doing something like a prawns pil-pil, I would cook them at a higher heat to
so
get them
it's
kind of
different,
crunchy.
because that's what I thought.
Yeah. So this is the lobster then. So you're going to get the lobster meat and you're just going to simply slice it.
Now, was that difficult to get out of the tail? How much
It's
work
not
was
difficult.
involved?
It's just go hard. Like, don't be precious with it. Just crack it open.
away. Okay.
Do you know?
But you don't need like the fancy thing or anything that you might get in a restaurant if you're
bare
out
hands.
Just bare hands. All right. Okay.
So in the lobster goes, and just make sure you're picking through it and you don't have any shell and stuff. Then the sauce is very simple. It's your typical Mary Rose sauce. So you've got your ketchup.
Like it looks wrong that you're just throwing ketchup on top of your lovely lobster, doesn't it?
Lobster and prawn with ketchup. That's like my kids.
No, but this is a Mary Rose
ketchup
sauce.
with everything. Don't ruin it.
Yeah,
No,
I know.
but this is a Mary Rose sauce.
sorry.
It still
Okay.
feels wrong though, but that is what Mary Rose is.
Yeah,
It's just
that's what it
ketchup
is.
and your
Right.
mayo.
Always have it open in advance.
That's all right.
Mayo,
I
yeah.
was there, I was
We didn't
like,
see.
nothing's
Okay.
going to catch me. Between the fog this morning and this, I was
I
like,
know.
driving up being like,
against you.
am I going to make it to junction 14? So
you
we're going to
did.
pop that in. Very simple.
Is it kind of half and half then with your mayo and
Yes,
your... okay.
exactly half and half.
Okay.
We're going to do some, and this is the hard part, Worcester sauce. Am I saying it right?
Worcestershire, yeah.
A little bit of this.
Yeah, great.
And the beauty of this, if you like chili or if you like spice, you can add it in. Bit of paprika.
Oh, nice.
I'm after
Isn't that
scaring you
the
small bit,
colour?
but trust me on this. Some dried parsley. You can use fresh as well, but sometimes it's easier. It's
Yeah.
what you have in the press. And then a little bit of lemon juice. And the good news with this is it's just easy to prepare. But what I would say is no longer than a day before. Because you want to keep your onions kind of crunchy, your cucumber fresh.
Yeah, of course.
And you're just going to mix it gently.
But having the veg in there, I think, is key for the texture, because otherwise it's just going to taste like, you know, it'll be baby food. It's too soft.
Yeah.
Having the crunch like an
And a
iceberg
good thing with
lettuce as
prawn
well.
cocktail, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have it completely saturated. You still want to be able to taste the lobster and prawn that's in it. Now, you can also,
lettuce leaves,
I know, little baby gem lettuce, which is quite handy.
nice.
You can have them on crackers, you can have them on brown soda bread, you can have them in a glass with a little bit of rocket. Anything of the sort will work as long as it's a vessel.
But you can have that laid out for people while you're still kind of watching the turkey and all that, and they can pick away.
And even if you're doing a big cheese board for Christmas, you can have your cheese, your ham, little lobster side, you know. It's all the little bits that'll work.
Gorgeous.
I'm looking forward to trying this
So am
ketchup
I.
and
No, it's
the
very nice.
Mary
sauce.
Rose.
See, the ketchup you think is going to be quite harsh, but the mayonnaise will cut through it, and then the juice will give you that little bit of extra kick.
Now,
so you can
I
kind of
tell
pick
you, if
them up.
I'm doing this for Christmas, I'm definitely pulling out the ketchup in front of everybody at home.
I'm sorry, that would actually stay for ages in your fridge. Your Mary
Oh my
Rose
God.
you could have made up well in
Yeah.
advance.
Right.
And it's amazing. They're just really easy to do, and you can have them prepped in glasses, brown soda bread, whatever. And it's just a very tasty and simple starter coming into Christmas.
You going for it.
And it's good value as well, so you'll have them ready to rock.
Lovely. Yummy.
Or it can be ready in a glass. So there's loads of different
yeah,
ways to do
posh
it.
again.
So you can go even posher and posher. It depends if you're making it for yourself or someone
That's
else.
delicious.
Very easy. So it's just simple. Blanch your lobster, fry your prawns, add your sauce, and away you go.
Make it the day, make it the morning of, whatever
Yeah.
else.
And
Beautiful.
literally all of it are available in store in Aldi from yesterday. So you've
They
no
have it.
excuse this
You can get
weekend.
well ahead, plan
you can get
ahead.
practice
Yeah.
in for Christmas and everything.
I
Tricia,
really like
thank
that.
you so much.
Pleasure.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Fair play to you. Join us now after the break as we are encouraged to explore Ireland's habitats for native flora and fauna. We'll see you after this.
Welcome back. Now, when it comes to Irish wildlife and biodiversity, our next guest, she's the queen bee.
She sure is. Our ecosystems expert, Éanna Lena, joins us now to chat about her brand new book. It's been a minute, Éanna. I say I haven't seen you in the last year, and look at you now. You've got a brand new book.
Isn't it great?
There's loads of people selling books, but Éanna's is the biggest. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
She's
Go
like, you're
big or
going to
go
notice
home.
my book.
The clue is in the name, the Great Irish Biodiversity Book. This is part of the series that Gill have been doing for the last few years. The Great Irish Farming Book, the Great Irish Weather Book. This one, of course, is much the best.
Obviously,
Yes.
Éanna,
So it's a
obviously.
children's book. So when
Well,
they hear
it's a family book.
biodiversity, do they like? What does that mean then? Are people put off because they think, oh, it's too sciencey, or break it
you
down for
sound
us?
like the publishers. I had a big fight with them. They wanted to call it the Great Irish Nature Book or the Great Irish Wildlife Book. Sure, everybody knows what biodiversity is. We have a biodiversity crisis. We've had a biodiversity, Citizens' Assembly. Biodiversity, bio means living things, and diversity is different. So it's all the different plants and animals that are in Ireland and the places where they live.
You're talking about the biodiversity crisis that we have in Ireland, but let's be honest, it's not on the top of the agenda. We're not talking about the fact that we don't have, like, the birds population has decreased phenomenally in the last 50 years, or insects, or we're not talking about it as much as we should be, because, as you said, it is a crisis. Nature is just disappearing in Ireland.
That's right. So, I mean, the thing is, first of all, if we don't know about it, how can we care about it? So this is what I've done with my book. I've made it nice and easy. I've taken 6 different places where wildlife lives, 6 habitats. So you have woodland and you have the bogs. I mean, our bogs, we've bogs in Ireland, and there's no more bogs till you get to Russia.
Wow.
The rest of them have drained them and got rid of them and burnt them and everything else in Holland and in Belgium and in Britain and in everywhere. We've our bogs, and it's like our if you like, nature, our tropical rainforest, because you have things there that don't occur anywhere else. You've got grasshoppers with red legs. You've got plants that eat insects. Normally insects eat plants, but not on the bog. So I have a whole section on that. I have a section on the seaside. You have the seashore. You have the mud flats. They're all full of birds at the moment because it's the winter time. We have the garden then, what you have in your garden during the day and what you have in the garden at night, which is completely different because it's dark and it's cooler and there's no birds to gobble you up. So you get all these other creepy crawlies going around at night. And I have a great artist, Barry Falls. He has most beautiful pictures. I mean, everything is so beautifully illustrated. So it's written for kids who can read themselves. But I mean, what happens is
everything is so beautiful, including the author pictures. So beautiful. That's what she's talking about there. That's what she's talking. Now, did Barry get all the pictures right straight away? Was he amazing? Is he a nature illustrator?
He was great. He was mostly got them all right. If you got a wrong leg or a wrong spot, it was back to him at once. You have to fix that up.
I wouldn't like to be handing in homework to anyone with you, Martin.
I know he was very decent. Look at all he had to do, huge amounts of them. So at the end of each section then I have a great Irish nature challenge, like a bucket list of things you have to find. So you've got to see, can you find a duck that builds its nest in a tree? I mean, that's mad. Now, where are the ducks doing up the trees? But there's a species called the goosander, and it has nests in trees in Glendalough and Wicklow. So in your life, you must go and see this at the right time. You must go and find the stinkhorn, a smelly mushroom that's so smelly you nearly get sick smelling it. Great stuff.
So at the end of every chapter you have these, go out and do it with your family. But let's talk about what's happening in relation to, teaching and children learning, along with families in Ireland. Because when we were younger, you always went out on a nature walk when you were in school. You always left, you went around collecting, you had a nature table. And this is the sort of thing that, it's kind of dying out a bit. Like, not many kids are leaving their schoolyard. Like, they're not going out being able to go. Like, do you worry about things like this? But it not being for and centre in education.
You can be given out about it on the one hand, or you can say, in fact, now, something like 80 or 90% of Irish primary schools have green flags. So there's much more greenery in the school grounds. They've been planting trees. They might have a wildflower meadow. They might have a bug hotel. So they're actually a bit more aware that you don't have to go to the Burren to see wildlife and there's nowhere else important, that they're able to make their surroundings interesting. And this is why I have the garden and the hedge and the field as a habitat where you could get even more things if you managed it properly. So when we have no mow May, for instance, look at all the things that come up. They're wildflowers, they're not weeds, because where are the dandelions supposed to live? I mean, if you call something a weed, it shouldn't be there. And then should it be extinct? That's kind of hate talk. You can't be having hate talk about plants.
What resonated with me when I was reading your brief was that, well, first of all, you've dedicated the book to your 7 grandchildren.
I have 7 grandchildren.
Congratulations.
I didn't do that and only feed them porridge.
But that's very important. But that you said, like, they'll often, well, I certainly know my experience of kids, because they're looking at YouTube and the likes, they'll often know facts about a beach in Australia. And mine even showed me something like there was phosphorescence or something. They were like, there's a beach or a sea that glows in Australia. They don't know.
There's beaches that glow in Ireland.
But that's what I mean. You need them to know about what's happening here in Ireland.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And that's why I have it for the Great Irish Book. That's why it's, and that's because we have huge amounts of biodiversity in Ireland, and it's declining because of land use change. It's not because of climate change, but because the way we've changed. Well, it changed our practices from having hay fields where you had corncrakes and curlews and skylarks and meadow pipits nesting on the ground, when you have a silage, because that's what you feed your animals with now. It's number one haircut in May. What can live on the ground there? Yeah. So everywhere isn't a farm. So the places that aren't being intensively managed should be kinder to those. And the local authorities are doing that. And people are not giving out anymore, saying, the council aren't cutting the grass, they're very lazy. They're beginning to accept that this is an action that we need to take to encourage the amount of bees we have, to encourage the amount of butterflies. And while we still have them left, they're not extinct, but there's declining numbers of them. So if you don't know about them, how can you conserve it? So this is for the whole family. I mean, it's not big writing like baby infant stuff. It's actually, properly written.
And is there stuff people should be looking out for this time of year? If they can go out their back garden, if someone does have hedges in their back garden and they haven't put down that astroturf and there's grass and everything like that, what should people be looking
the birds
for?
at this time of the year are great, because now that the weather has turned cold finally and they've guzzled all the berries. I was going to bring in berries and show them all to you, but when I went to look, there they were gone. They'd eaten all the holly berries, they'd eaten all the pyracantha berries, they'd eaten. But if you had your hedge in your garden with holly and pyracantha and things with berries in them, like rowan or something like that, you'd see the birds coming to eat them, which would be great. But now you're going to have things coming to your bird table. So if you put out food for them, you get blackbirds and you get robins and you'll get things like thrushes and you'll get the tits and the finches and all of those. So you can encourage it into your garden if you want.
We're talking about, obviously, this is Irish biodiversity. The big COP29 is going on in Baku. For you, is this an incredibly important thing that we're all talking about?
This is COP29. We've had 28 of them already, and we've been swearing every year we're going to save the environment. So this year now, what are they talking about? It was Paris where they set the temperature to not go above 1.5. That was a few years ago.
We've gone above.
Now in COP29, what they're doing is they're asking the rich people who've caused all the mess to donate money to the poor countries who are suffering the impact of it, so that they can protect themselves against the rising oceans, against the droughts, against this. So we're at the stage now of accepting it's happened and see, can we alleviate it? And if people have to pay for something like that, it might occur to them, why is it happening in the first instance? Because the horse has not gone over the hill, the stable door is open all right. So, we still can do it, but we really need to get our act together.
Lovely.
So the COPs are always very important situations like
Fair
that.
play.
So there's the book.
That's
Everybody
it.
rush out and buy it.
The Great Irish Biodiversity Book by Éanna Díona, illustrated by Barry Falls. Thank you so much. That was a plug and a half.
Wasn't it just?
Fair play. She never took it out of her hands.
Woman.
Thank you so much,
Éanna.
Éanna. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Tommy, what's coming up in the last hour of the show?
Coming up in the final hour, actor Conor O'Donnell talks to us about working on the acclaimed television series Bad Sisters.
I nearly caught him out there. And journalist Paul Williams tells us about spending 40 years in the biz. We'll be back after this quick break. Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. Here's what we've got coming up this hour.
Yes, lots still to come. At 9:20, we're going to chat to investigative journalist Paul Williams about Crooks and his new book.
Yes, we will. We're also going to be chatting with Bad Sisters actor Conor O'Donnell ahead of the release of the second series. That's out today, I think.
Very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, Karen, you've got something interesting. What are you chatting about?
I sure do. Sexpert Jenny Keane is with us in this morning. I'm sort of guessing from the display what area is the topic for today. But Jenny, what are you chatting to us about?
We're going to talk about breast health and sexual self-care. So I've got lots of goodies to show you and then lots of tips, really simple tips that you can bring into your practice at home.
I love that. Into our practice at home. Great stuff. Looking forward to finally getting to meet her in real life.
We were talking about a number of things earlier. We were also talking about hangovers and hangover cures. Scientists reckon they found a pill that if you take it, it will cure hangovers and shield your liver and other organs from alcohol-induced harm.
Yeah, they've tested it in mice, so you know it's going to be
Must work. And we said, of course, we know that alcohol...
You know they're ragers. We've seen Ratatouille, guys. Come on.
That's true.
You know it. You know it.
But behave yourself exactly if you are drinking. But it is good to look at what are your hangover cures, we asked you.
Mandy has a completely sus. She says vitamin B, complex magnesium and folic acid tablet definitely works, because another viewer had mentioned that earlier. But Mandy says, I went to a family wedding earlier this year. Hubby and I did this before drinking. We partied until 2 a.m. Congratulations, that's actually very late.
Well done.
And I was perfect at 8 a.m. Highly recommend it. 6 hours sleep.
Right.
You see, the magnesium's going to help you sleep as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we're obviously saying you're not driving. We're not talking about driving. We're like being able to get up and go for the hotel breakfast or whatever is going on there. There's another message in next, Tommy.
Yeah, well, this is from Karen.
Not me.
Such a... Sorry.
Did you send this in to us?
Thank you, Karen, for sending this in, but you're just right. The best cure for a hangover is not to drink. You can have a great time without alcohol.
We're having a great time right now.
Karen, this is for you.
We're having a great time right now.
Karen's getting a very hard time in the media at the moment, right? We need to be more fun. We need to not give out, and we need to redeem the name Karen for Karens everywhere, okay? So get on board and be more fun, okay?
Hey.
I cannot do this alone.
Karen, have a drink.
Who says she's not? She's been here a week.
That Karen, I'm okay. I'm fine.
Thank you for sending that text, so Karen.
But
I
it's
really
true.
appreciate
I
you
do
getting
actually agree with you.
involved.
You do agree
I
with
actually
her.
do agree.
Emma, in South Africa, they sell a hangover kit, which includes a charcoal tablet,
yes.
milk thistle, and a painkiller. Have you tried that when you've been in South Africa?
I've heard of the milk thistle I've tried before as well. Yeah.
How'd it go?
I can't remember. I haven't seen this. A charcoal tablet, though.
Well, that's
It's
what
odd.
they use to pump your stomach, isn't it? Charcoal.
Where did you even get one of those? South Africa. Katerina said sleep and a Chinese takeaway.
Oh, Katerina,
Chinese
thank
takeaway in the
you.
morning, though.
Louise.
The leftovers.
Milkshakes.
Reheated.
Love that one.
Milkshake. Yeah,
That's a good one.
Sheila, this is old school now. Best cure for hangover is a raw egg with a drop.
Oh, Sheila, you're hardcore.
Or Bloody Mary or something like that, you know.
That's different. Now, we've got some breaking news, and this is really upsetting for Tommy, because I know he was up for this one, wasn't it? You know, People magazine, they do a sexiest person of the year every single year. I still have my my magazines from when George Clooney was People's sexiest person. I do. I got people in America to send the magazines back to me.
No way.
It has been announced. People's 2024 sexiest person
How
alive
disappointing.
is
That is not you.
John Krasinski, everybody. Emily Blunt's fella. Oh, he's looking good
picture.
there.
Oh, well, that's
Well
a
done,
good
John.
picture now, that.
Have you ever seen 13 Days?
Have we another picture of him?
In the office.
He always looks great. Oh, hello.
Ah, come on now. Sexiest man in the world.
Have you seen 13 Days? The story about the soldiers in Benghazi?
I have seen him in loads of movies. Anyway, listen, well done to you, John.
But he
When
made
you're funny.
that, what one did he make? Oh, parents help me out here. It's the
Quiet
one,
Place.
no, the kids one recently, and it was
With
about
Ryan.
If.
Oh,
which
yes,
stands
he's
for
in that too.
Imaginary
Yeah,
Friends.
he's the dad in it.
He's the dad, but he
cool
created
dad.
it. Like, he directed, wrote it and everything. So, and because Emily Blunt and him, I think I can see where they're going. He comes across as such a lovely guy. Look at gorgeous Emily.
He does.
It's the way he looks at her. Get you a husband.
It's
who
just
looks at you
showing
like John
how
Krasinski.
magazine is going, though, isn't it? Because I'm sure, like, I know a lot of younger people are looking for people like role model to be sexiest man of the year. Do you know who role model is? There we go.
Is that it?
John, congratulations.
There's a lot of Ireland AM viewers
you
who are
have
looking
won-
for Alan Hughes to be the
You have won the election of sexiest person alive 2024. Speaking of elections.
Speaking of Alex, thank you, Warren. Tonight, Virgin Media Television is hosting the first of the 3 big interviews with the party leaders, hoping to be the next Taoiseach. First up is Fine Gael Simon Harris for an hour-long live interview with Colette Fitzpatrick. That's at 10 p.m. tonight on Virgin Media Play and Virgin Media 1.
That will be followed next week by Sinn Féin's Mary Lou MacDonald and then Micheál Martin of Fianna Fáil on Wednesday, the 27th of November. This is not in preference. It's just wherever anyone is available to go in and have the old chats. Someone has to go first,
Hopefully
isn't
come
it?
and talk to us as well.
You keep on saying it. He's keep on like coming and talking.
Just manifest it.
Yep.
Now, next up, he covered some of the biggest criminals in Ireland, and now he's written a book charting his 40-year career.
Yes, Paul Williams is going to be chatting to us after the break.
Welcome back. Our next guest has a career that spans 40 years in crime journalism, writing about some of Ireland's most prolific criminals.
Yeah, he's here to tell us about his new memoir this morning. It's great to have him with us. Paul Williams, good morning to you, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Great to have you with you. Congratulations
Lovely to
on your new
nice
book.
in here, nice and cosy and
You
warm.
know,
Well, we're enjoying the chat.
it's a bit different from being out, you know, following criminals around. We like to think.
It certainly is, and we're going to get into some of the stories because it is fascinating. But we do have to ask you about the news at the minute. And the monk, Jerry Hutch, is announces plans to run in the general election. What did you make of that?
Well, I thought, first of all, that Jerry was just taking the piss out of everybody because he's very good at that as well. You know, he's a highly intelligent, very wily and clever guy, but also very publicity shy and very, intensely the strong, silent type. For him to start coming out of the woodwork like this, I think it's perhaps because he's just probably as a consequence of what happened to him, being charged with murder and then getting off and giving the state a bloody nose. It's unusual for him. I'm very confused. I've been following him for nearly 40 years.
You know him?
I do know him, yeah. I've met him a number of times, yeah.
And did he ever show an interest in politics before?
No. Like all criminals, they say, oh, Jesus, all politicians are criminals. There's the real criminal. You know, criminals rationalise their behaviour by talking like that.
Right.
But, no, I'm very surprised. I think he'll only get about 8%, but he will shake up the race in North Inner City because he will definitely... He's very much loved and liked. But, however, there is still the other ambivalence in all of us about the likes of Jerry Hutch, is that you have to remember that it was ultimately what his family did in the Regency that unleashed murder and mayhem on the streets of the North Inner City and had police patrolling the schools and everything, you know, in the North Inner City to protect people and keep people from being murdered.
18 people murdered in those few years.
Well, the 18 people in entirety from the time his nephew was murdered, and then they went to kill him. So I really... watching this with great interest, and I don't know what his game plan is, but he has a game plan, or he thinks he may have a game plan.
And you do certainly, like, it's funny to see your reaction because this is your life. This is what you have been doing for so long, and that is following the lives of criminals, criminal activities, OCGs as we all know them now, but you get to know people as well. But in this book, Crooks, you're giving us, like, I've read so many of your books. This is a different insight because you're talking about your life as well, and how it kind of affected. It's kind of a memoir as well.
Well, it's not really, I said it's not a memoir, not a biography. What it was when I do a lot of talks for different groups and organisations and gigs and stuff like that around the place. And people always ask about the personal thing, about how does it affect you. And when I started writing this, I started because it was 1984 when the first time somebody threatened to shoot me, and it was a farmer near my hometown in Leitrim, in Ballinamore in Leitrim, and he had sent a bunch of what's called rural criminals came to try and rob him, and he took a shotgun out to them and he went to shoot me. So it was a nice sort of bookend, you know, starting in 1984. But I started telling some of the stories about what we did, and then it just took a life of its own on because I didn't know where I was going when there were so many stories to tell. And there was a lot of stories I didn't tell because it just didn't have space. 110,000 words in the book, and my publisher said, no more. But then I found myself getting into territory where I didn't expect to get to. Like, it got quite emotional, actually, at time, you know.
When you talked about your family?
Yeah, and what, like, people always ask that question, why did you put your family through it? But you have to remember, I came to the Sunday World in 1987, and literally, and that's why I've always had a sort of a type of a connection with Hutch, because he'd pulled off the biggest robbery in the history of the state at the time, just a couple of weeks beforehand. So I got a desk, and he's about 2 years older than me, and I got very interested in crime, and crime was a very heavy subject. It was becoming a major subject at the time because you had the general, and you had him, and then you had John Gilligan's gang going, but then there was only 3 or 4 major gangs, and the drug trade hadn't taken off by any manner of means. But then I found myself getting interested in it and covering it, and then covering all the seminal events. And that was initially the thing I was doing in the book, and I did about all the major seminal events I witnessed that changed the course of gangland history. But incrementally, you get more and more involved. And the first time, like, I got a serious death threat, all the threats that I got were relayed through the police, as in police intelligence, guard intelligence. Because if somebody picks up the phone and rings you and threatens you, you never take that seriously. But when it was coming through intelligence sources, it was taken seriously. And the first time I got a serious threat was in 1994, when members of the General's gang, and Martin Cahill was alive at the time. I don't believe Martin Cahill, I said that in the book. I don't believe that Martin Cahill wanted to do the things that these guys wanted to do to me. But it was the first time I ever got in trouble. And then I had a few other incidents after that. And then, of course, then Veronica Guerin was murdered. And what happened then over time was, you know, then they murdered Martin O'Hagan, a colleague of mine in the Sunday World. We have some distinction, like two friends who are also colleagues, being murdered in the line of duty. As I have always made a point in other books as well, is that it was no longer business, to use the old mafia parlance, it's no longer business, now it's very personal. And it does get very personal when people around you are threatened and killed. But also then, it's not something that you willingly went to do to put your family in danger's way. It just, as I say, it happened, it crept up. And I think one line spontaneously came to me. I was writing the book, you know, and I was saying, oh, Jesus, where am I now? And I just wrote the line. I suddenly found myself in a dark and demented world. You know, all this stuff was coming in, and particularly 20 years ago, it really started coming in on top because there was several threats coming from several different directions. And I ended up, there was a bomb scare at the house that was very high profile at the time, and there was an acid attack on the car. But that was carried out by the Viper, Martin Foley's gang. But they actually ultimately perhaps even saved my life, because there was another crew had made a number of attempts, and the police were trying to keep an angle on this, or a handle on this, and they kept warning me, you're going to be murdered. And they kept going to my managing director at the Sunday World at the time, Michael Brophy, and said, listen, this guy is upsetting so many people. The INLA, elements of the IRA, all these guys, they're coming after him. And I think when that happened, the police, the state decided, we're putting you under 24/365. Like we were talking with Jonathan Dowda before we came on, and what I was put in under was the equivalent. And I'm the only journalist this happened to, which is not very auspicious, but it was put under the equivalent of a witness protection programme.
And for how long?
Open up for over 2 years with armed guys with me, but then I had over 10 years, 11 years of full-time 365 armed and uniformed police at my home.
And you speak about so much of this in the book. You talk about Christy Kinnan, I think, potentially inviting you off to a conference and knowing to not go because you might not come back.
The police came and told me about this.
Even really interesting things I find in it as well is about trying to buy a house. You found your dream house, and then all of a sudden when they found out it was for you, it got pulled off the market, potentially getting barred from your local pub. Trying to get babysitters.
For years we had a terrible trouble. That was 20. For over 20 years we couldn't get babysitters. Like we had difficulty when we did get babysitters. They were the best paid babysitters and the best looked after babysitters in the world, because
and the guards outside.
Yeah, but this was before the guards came.
But you talked about your PTSD as well, which I think is fascinating. You're very honest about it, because and there's a bit in it where the device was planted underneath your car and you're going off in the Garda car after it and you're hugging your daughter.
Yeah, it was at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
and a tear rolls down your eye, and you must think to yourself, why do I put my family through this?
Yeah, there was one thing, you know, you think the kids are safe and you're trying to keep it away from them, but many years later, in 2008, I remember this, my son went to Turnier College. By the way, Turnier College was locked down on one occasion because they spotted a number of criminals acting suspiciously in the area. The guards caught fellas watching our house. But I remember my son went to one of these, you know, it was a meditation type thing they do at the end of their leaving cert, or before their leaving cert starts. And he had to write these letters to his family when he came home. And myself and Anne and Irene, our daughter, picked them up. And he seemed to be quite emotional. And the guards were still living at the house at that time. But we came home and he said, I have to read this letter to you, because it's a letter he wrote. And he wrote this thing in the letter, which caught me totally off guard. And he said, every morning when I get up, I try to go to the outside without my dad noticing and look under the car. And then he said, and every time I see my dad left me at school, as I say goodbye to him, I think I might never see him again. And Jesus, I just spontaneously just erupted in tears. Our dog even was this. We all got emotional about it, and even the poor dog started getting upset. I don't know why. I'll never forget that moment. But it was like, even though I was aware of all of this stuff, and like Jake now was gone, he's a big grown-up man, he was heading off to university at that stage, and you know, it just hits you into the solar plexus like a sledgehammer. But the one point about it is, guys, in the end of the day, that always burns in my soul. And I've got criticised for thinking I was on a crusade and a campaign. And there's a lot of begrudgery and jealousy in our bullshit business, right? But the one thing that always drove me from the very beginning was meeting the people who are terrorised by these low-life bastards. And when you get into people's lives and you see so much of it, I've become an expert on it. I help people now, and I can understand the symptoms of PTSD. I never talked about it before because it was private, and it just came out in this. Like, when you go into people's homes, like Steve Collins is one of the highest profile. Steve Collins is a very close friend. I've been at all the christenings, funerals, weddings, you know, in that family, and they're very, very close to him. I walked with him through that journey because he wanted somebody to walk with him. And when you witness that, and if you ever pull back at that stage when it was getting really, really heavy, if you pull back, number one, they're cowards. They come after you. They detect weakness. But those people, you know, it's not some kind of holier than thou nonsense or crusading. It's when you look at those people, the victims of crime, what they go through and how their lives are, how they invest people's lives. Yeah. You say, you know, it's worth taking a shot. The only thing we could do is humiliate them. And really humiliate them. And we did that for years. And I was very proud of that. And if I had to do it now, okay, the whole paradigm and the whole dynamic has changed now because, you know, it's because there's criminals in every town and village now. Yeah. And there's just so much to report. And society is moving so fast that there are no major exposés. And the guards have become a closed shop. They don't talk to anybody and control the message.
And I know we have to finish soon, but is that one thing that after years, all of you who work in this, like, in exposing criminality, that you've kind of watched, like you can go onto social media now, you can just, it's everywhere. Like it's absolutely, there's no one's afraid, you're not humiliated anymore because they're openly saying what it is they're doing, whether it's from drug dealers or people who want to intimidate people or people who are going to attack someone else.
Yeah, it's become much more public.
It's public.
And you know, in a way, they use social media to intimidate people and harass people. But one point I make as well is that people watching this, I made this point again and again in the book because it sort of became obvious to me when you're reflecting on it. Like the most dangerous part of journalism, like remember, there's crime journalists in every newspaper and every broadcast outfit in the country now. Like every one of those, it's the only area of journalism where you report on stuff that people, really dangerous people, can take umbrage and threaten you. A political correspondent or a business correspondent or an agricultural correspondent, nobody's going to come along and threaten them and their families. And that's why in all the papers, like crime journalists have, the newspapers and the media organisations have a responsibility to look after their security and ensure they're safe in their homes.
And that's what's fascinating about this book, because I think everybody's fascinated in wanting to know about the people who actually do put this and put their lives and family through it, and you really open up on it, and good on you, because it's fascinating. Thank you so much, Paul. Paul Williams, Crooks, the stories behind the headlines. You can see it there now. It's out now.
Paul, thanks a million.
Thank you
really
very
appreciate
much.
it. Thanks a million for coming in. Welcome back. Our next guest, well, they're class and aiming to use their platform to increase opportunities for actors with additional needs.
Amazing. After starting his career at the age of 6, Conor O'Donnell has gone on to star in the critically acclaimed Bad Sisters. He's here with us today alongside his acting coach and agent, Katie. Conor, good morning to you both. Great to have you with us. Before we get chatting, let's take a look at a little clip of you in Bad Sisters.
Who is it, Michael?
2 boys.
Come on in. Sit down. Michael, love, go on upstairs and get ready, OK? Go on.
Good morning. It is so lovely to have you both here. Conor, an absolute pleasure. You were just looking at that clip and you weren't very happy because you're in a Dublin jersey.
Yeah.
You're a Kildare man and they asked you to get into a Dublin jersey for Bad Sisters.
Yes, yeah.
Was that very hard?
Well, for me, I had to wear it. So it made me feel, even though I'm a Kildare man, even though I had to wear it.
It was part of the job.
Yes,
you had to do it. You had to do it.
That's what the job as an actor is. You got to do what they say. And with Sharon Horgan telling you what to do, you do it.
Yes, yeah.
How did you get into acting? Before we get into Bad Sisters, how did you find the love for acting?
So at the age of 6, I was in State Academy in Newbridge. We won 2 All-Ireland medals. And then I went down to Griffith College, Dublin. I won my first class honours and I received my President's Award.
Wow.
God, you've done so
pretty
much.
impressive.
My God, we haven't even gotten to Trinity, you being in Trinity yet.
Yeah.
Did you always love, from the age of 6, I suppose, when you're going out into the acting world, did you love that? Did you love being on stage? You must do.
Yes, I loved being on set. It was a great opportunity to meet some of the other actors and actresses.
So lovely to do it at that age. And Katie, you've known Conor for a very long time.
Yeah, I know Conor since he was 6. And he's always been fantastic. Like, we knew from a young age he was just brilliant. He was so good.
Did you see a star quality, or whenever you see Conor coming in, like, what was the college? What's the college that you're both working? Are you working in Newbridge?
So I run a K&C Performing Arts Company in Newbridge. I opened it with my twin sister 6 years ago. So Conor's been involved with us. My mum was his drama teacher first, and he's been involved with us since. And he comes in to help when he gets a chance and tells them all about his acting experiences. And I think all the students look up to Conor, and they're kind of like, Conor's done this. We want to be like Conor, which is so good.
And he's done so well, and you're his agent as well.
Yes,
so whenever an opportunity like Bad Sisters comes up, how did that come about? And did you know instantly that you've got the right man for the job?
Yeah, I got an email a few months before we started filming. And Conor just fit the description. So we sent in his self-tapes, and we kind of knew, I was like, Conor would be so good for this. Like, he is literally born for the stage and the screen. And Conor jumped at it. When we said, do you want to do the audition? He was like, absolutely. And I think since like the first day he stepped on set, everyone can just see that like Conor was born to do this.
And talk to us about being on set, because this is a big role. It's an Apple TV drama, no expense spared. So you think, like, is it intimidating, or are the people really nice?
So people were very welcoming.
Yeah.
And for example, Sharon Horgan presented me an Ireland jersey signed by her brother Shane Horgan.
Did she?
Wow.
Yes.
They're so much better than one signed by Tommy Bowe. They're worth so much more.
Yeah.
Like, they're proper rugby jerseys.
Look, there's a picture
Look at
as
the two of
well.
you there.
Isn't that so nice? And did you get on well with Sharon?
Yeah, she was amazing.
And you said that because you're sitting there all day, like all actors, you're sitting around in a scene. And they can get dragged out, right? You might have to do it 10 different ways.
Yeah.
But Sharon, you found it really interesting watching her. You learned from her.
Yes.
What was she doing that was fascinating?
So she stayed in character, and then after that, there was one particular scene that I loved. One was the Christmas Day scene where I was pretending to murder JP, as in hugging him. And then after all that, he said, "Control your child," to all the other actors. And they were like, this is a normal day of hugging people. And then John Paul comes back and says, "Come on, Mammy, we're coming home."
Oh my God, I remember the way he used to say Mammy, the way you just said it like that. I forgot about that from the first season of Bad Sisters. And you would see they do things, like they might have to do it over and over and over again, but they were different every time.
Yes.
So did you learn from that? Are you like, okay, I can do this in a different way?
Yeah, it's getting to know the different angles.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
it was funny because Sarah Green, and with continuity, they were topping up the chocolates in the bowls. And from every angle, she was there having her chocolates in her pockets. I could not stuffing herself with chocolates.
Oh, extra chocolates, can't go wrong.
Secret.
Genuinely, this is the stuff I actually want to know.
It is it's an Apple TV production, which is huge, mega budget. I know Conor had his own trailer, the whole lot.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to be on set, to see?
Oh, it was amazing. Like, to see even the different sets and the different locations that they use. Like, yeah, it was, I don't think we expected how good it was going to be on set. Like, it's so professional. Like, obviously it's Apple TV, like, but everything was just done for you. They were so good.
Conor, I have to ask, what does it feel like to see the representation for people, Down syndrome people, on screen? Like, this is a very big step, because it's not about Downs or anything. You're a character in a TV show.
Yeah, so I feel very happy being on set to represent people to do all abilities.
Because you also work with Down Syndrome Ireland, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
What do you do with Down Syndrome Ireland?
So I'm the treasurer of the National Advisory Council. We go out to different places like the Daly's Insurance Centre, and we talk to the board that we're all able, that we have the voice.
Giving voice to what concerns you. Absolutely, I love that.
Listen, I know we had James Martin who won the Oscar for The Irish Goodbye as well. Like, it's fantastic to see so many people getting opportunities as well. And you must be delighted with the opportunities with Bad Sisters, but look forward to potentially new roles hopefully coming up.
Well, I hope in the coming years after Trinity, I hope to get more experience and to study acting.
We have to mention that you're in Trinity at the minute.
Yes.
Doing arts.
What are you doing in Trinity?
So it's a 2-year course. It's art science and inclusive applied practice. Some of my subjects are personal and self-development and human rights.
I mean, the amount of things that you're able to do, trying to fit all this in around being a college student in Trinity. Katie, I know that this is important for you as well, that representation matters.
Yeah.
This is something that you're very passionate about within your drama school.
Yeah, I think so. I think for all students, it's important that they can look and say, like, I can do this. It doesn't matter if there's an additional need. Like, it is possible for everybody. Like, they look to Conor and they're like, Conor's done so much, like, and he is a role model to them. And I think for young students they want to do this, and I think it's so important that they know they can.
It's absolutely, no, it is fantastic, absolutely. Listen, Conor, pleasure to have you with us here this
and
morning.
thank
you so much, and congratulations on everything you're doing at the minute. Best of luck when you go back to college as well. Conor O'Donnell. Bad Sisters, of course, is available now on Apple TV+. Make sure you go check it out. And Katie Conlon, drama teacher at KNC Performing Arts Centre. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a million for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Now, coming up next, Jenny Keane is here. So if there are any little ears or eyes nearby, maybe get the iPad out. It's a bit of a distraction. We'll see you after the break.
Welcome back. Now, the next item may require some little eyes and ears to be distracted. It might be time for an iPad or send them out in the garden. It's cold, but it's dry. We are talking about the benefits of breast massage.
And my God, is it cold in here? Down's here to tell us more and show us how it's done. And sex educator Jenny Keane. She's freezing, Jenny, God bless her.
Oh, God.
My God.
Winter.
Winter. Okay, we're here to talk about the boobs in all manner of aspects. But breast massage. I didn't know there was a thing like breast massage. What are the benefits of that?
Oh, there's so many benefits, but I'll list some of them really quickly. So it really supports lymphatic drainage. Another thing is it promotes circulation. And Karen, you're new here to me, so I would talk about how blood flow is really important to arousal. So I say blood flow equals more sensation equals more pleasure. It supports better orgasms, backed by science. And then really good for emotional well-being, and then really helps to cultivate body image and better body confidence.
Because some girls grow up, they get their boobs early, everyone notices, there's comments. Some girls don't get the boobs they want. So, like, women could have a very conflicted relationship with their breasts, couldn't they?
Absolutely. Like, it's very normal to have a very complicated relationship with your breasts. As I said, are they too big? Were they not big enough? Did you get unwanted attention? And then we have other things that we might experience as we get older, like health scares or even breast cancer. And so whenever these things happen, there is a kind of a severing, right, between us and that part of our body, and that is disconnection, right? And when there's any kind of disconnection, it means they're no longer a part of us anymore. So breast massage is actually a really beautiful practice to help reconnect again to our body. So
and that's something that is really important to realise, that sometimes it doesn't feel part of us because they're so commented upon, and it feels like society is okay to do. Like, a woman could be like this and they're like, well, she's clearly drawing attention. It's like, she's just crossing her arms, lads, calm down. So it can be something that everyone has an opinion on them, even if they're not theirs.
Absolutely. And I think as well, one thing that's really great is that with breast massage, there's this idea in certain practices, particularly Taoism, that the breasts are the energy of giving. And I think if you look at our modern world and how much we are expected to give out, to give out to our job, our family, our friends, everybody, it's very hard to, have that time and attention to give back to ourselves. So breast massage is a really good way to give back, to us.
Because we were chatting there in the ad break about this feeling touched out. If you've been a mom, if you've breastfed, and maybe that's baby one, but then baby number two comes along and you have another toddler kind of pawing at you the whole time, and it just feels like there's puppies just all around you all the time as a mom. So how do you kind of, reclaim them so you don't just feel like the cow who's just milking all day long, because you do feel like a milking machine a lot of the time if you're feeding.
And even if you aren't feeding directly from your breast, like if you think about, you know, holding the baby, you know, and even as the babies get older, they're on top of you, and that's all that sensation of touch. It's actually related to the energy of the heart, which is also around the breast area as well. So when you actually start to use breast massage as a tool for self-care, it's a really powerful way to, as I said, reconnect and also give that energy back to yourself, which means you are going to be better able in those circumstances of being touched by your partner, or, you know, in intimate circumstances with other people.
So what are we talking about? What are we actually doing with breast massage?
Okay, I'm going to show you 3 techniques. They're so simple, right? And these 3 techniques, it doesn't matter, you can do them any time of the day. So in the morning time, they're actually really great to kind of wake up and give yourself a little boost of energy. In the evening time, they're really good if you've had a stressful day and work for closing stress cycles. And then at night time, amazing, like better sleep, okay? So I'll show you 3. They're so simple. And as I said, you can do them, like there's no reason not to do these. So the first one is cupping. And basically you just place your hands on your breast and you breathe. And you take about 10 breaths, inhaling, exhaling, making sure the breath is slow, long, generous. That's all it is. The next one is one of my favorites, right? It's just bouncing the breasts.
What do you call this? I love your term.
So yeah, I actually call this happy boobies, right? So it's actually a really good practice to do in the shower, right? It's a really, I always say it's better than coffee. It wakes the whole system up.
Oh, here,
but
lads,
also,
we need this here.
It's really hard. Like if you do this at home, right? It's actually really hard to be annoyed or angry, you know. So you can't.
I couldn't be mad at you right now, for instance, Jenny. I just got
genuine. You're in a fight with your fella.
Yeah,
you're just like,
I'm forgiven. Whatever I've done, I'm forgiven.
Do my happy boobies here. So, but it's actually an injection of positivity, you know, into your day. Even us, like, we're laughing now.
Yeah,
as we
exactly.
talk
Yeah, you're
about
right.
it.
It's funny.
Yeah. Funny. And then the last one is, it's a really great practice for anyone who experiences lots of stress or anxiety. You place your hands in the center of your chest, press it in like a button, and you just move in very slow circles in one direction, then move very slow circles in another direction. And do you know, if you've ever experienced, you know, panic attack or anxiety, you feel that knot.
And your hand automatically sometimes goes there, doesn't it?
Sorry, exactly. Mike. Yeah. And so this is a really good way for relieving that tension or stress that might build up. So it's a really simple practice.
So simple. And it is sometimes, you know, you find yourself just being comfortable like that. You're kind of just when you're sitting down watching TV. It is also incredibly important, obviously, to be checking your breasts as much as possible. That is hugely important. And if you know your breasts, you'll know if there's something has happened, right? If you do massage.
And that's why we're encouraged to check our breasts regularly, because we need to develop a relationship with our breasts, because everybody's breasts are different, right? And so what's normal for me might not be normal for you. What's normal for you might be different for me. So it's really important that if we have a relationship where we know what our breast tissue is doing, you know, throughout the month and whatnot, then we can actually, you know, be, I suppose, at the front line when it comes to if there's changes happening.
Makes
so we can get that support.
Now, you have lots of things here. This is for nipple play.
Oh,
What's nipple play and how do we do it?
As I said, you know, when it comes to better orgasms, there's actually science around this. It says, you know, if you stimulate the clitoris, the cervix and the nipples, they actually all light up in the same area of the brain. So, you know, breast massage is actually a really powerful way to set the stage for better orgasms, essentially. So I have a whole host of toys. I cannot keep this in the store. This is nipple arousal cream, right? So it's like balm. You put it on the nipples, and it's really good.
I'm not going to put it on 1 second. Excuse me.
It also tastes really good. So
I'm so invigorated.
It tastes really good, so it kind of helps, you know.
I am Jennifer Aniston and Friends under here right now.
So that's very popular.
Wearing a cardigan.
Oh my God, how cute! It's in the shape of a nipple.
I know. And then these are also warming gourmet oils. So they're edible lubes, essentially. And these are in different flavors, the pina colada, margarita, but also really good. So anything warm is going to help bring blood flow. Are we out of time?
We are. Where can people find you?
Hello, Jenny Keane. I was like, where can they find
Hello, Jenny Keane. There you go.
I want one of those pillows.
Little boob for you. You've taking it. Jenny Keane, you're the best. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah. Nipple play. Nipple play.
Coming up on tomorrow's show with loads. Have a great day today. We'll see you tomorrow at 7.